This is the Halftime Show with Omar Adori on Pulse 95.
It sure is that time. It's the Halftime Show with Omar Adori. I'm your host, covering everything sport, international, local. Hope you're having a blessed day wherever you're tuned in around the world. 95 FM, pulse95radio.com. Even if you're chilling at home watching us live on YouTube, it's going to be a great show today. We got this flavour of London. You know how I get about with London. When London's in the building, I'm really happy, especially when they got great roots, great educational background, a lot of info, a lot of musts, a lot of myths in the world of fitness with Tarek Shuhaibar, aka T-Shubs, is in the building. Make sure you tune in on the only place to be at 3, the Halftime Show on Pulse 95.
This is the Halftime Show with Omar Aduri on Pulse 95.
That's right. But let's get ready to rumble. And let's get ready to rumble with the one and only T-Shubs in the building. We'll talk about his football team later because football has been taking a lot of space on this show. Whether it's male or female, they normally come with some opinions. And I'm sure this guy will talk about it a bit later. But Tarek, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Omar. I greatly appreciate for you inviting me on. And I can't wait to chat with you for this hour.
It's been a long time coming.
It has indeed. I've known Omar, for all the followers, for how long now? 15 years or so? A long time. Time flies.
Before I moved out here.
Yeah, so we have known each other from London, through mutual friends. We've never actually had a chance to actually sit down properly and talk training, nutrition, football teams. I'm not too sure about Omar's football team, but we'll get to that later on.
Tell me, Tarek, there's a lot that's happened in the last 15 years. I've seen you do some great things in the fitness industry. I've seen you also stay true to your roots and what you believe in your philosophy. When it comes down to it, you see a lot of opinions in when it comes down to the performance aspect of training. You yourself have put yourself through vigorous training, vigorous studies, education, everything. Tell me more about the myths that you keep seeing in training and performance.
So when it comes to training performance, there's myths flying around left, right and center. So when I first started training, I've probably tried every diet, every training plan under the sun. You name it, I've done it. I've gone through some not so great moments in terms of what I've done, finding out the hard way. I think it's a lot of trial and error. So over the past 10 years, I've found what's kind of work towards me, work towards my clients. A lot of the myths you probably hear is like, don't have carbs after 6 p.m. You can't eat this kind of food, you can't eat that food because it's bad for you, you can only eat. There's different myths. So like say 20 years ago, people were like, don't eat fat because it's going to raise your cholesterol and it's bad for your heart. Then it went to the whole don't eat carbohydrates, and it's like, okay, you can only eat a certain amount of calories at a certain point of time in your life. There's way too many myths. I think people try and look for something that seems exciting, seems like, oh my god, that seems like, wow, I need to do this. Like somebody said to you, I want to lose 20 kilos in 6 weeks, and they give you a program, your eyes light up and you're like, and someone is desperate to do it, they'll be like, oh, I really want to get involved in this. But however, something I'm going to talk a little bit more about is like kind of the why of people do stuff, even in performance training, nutrition. People don't really have a strong enough why before they get involved in it. Like you see from your football background, people want to jump into football from an early age because they feel like they have to, or they like football, but they don't really have a strong passion for it. Same thing with training, same thing with nutrition. People feel like they have to lose weight, or they have to go to the gym, or they have to exercise. But that kind of goes hand in hand with motivation. So motivation is, you'll get motivation with anything you do. You have motivation the first couple of weeks. That doesn't last forever. If you don't have a strong enough why behind something, your motivation will... There's going to be periods, like I've gone through myself, there's periods where you may go out with friends, there's going to be different things involved. It goes. So if your why is not really bulletproof from day one, you're going to find it's going to be a lot harder to actually get into the whole thing.
What kind of whys do you hear normally from your clients? And does that even divert you from taking them on, or, for example, not taking them on?
Yeah, that's a good one. So again, before I start with anyone comes to me, even if I talk to someone with some of my friends, they were like, I want to go to the gym, I want to go and try and get bigger glutes, I want to try and build more muscle, I want to lose fat. I say to them, doesn't really matter about the training and nutrition protocol itself. I ask them, first thing is why? Why are you doing it? What are your goals? What do they entail? If your why is not strong enough, there's going to be a period of time. So why I usually do it, what my forte is, people will come to me for a period of time and say, I want to lose, and I want to look a certain way, I want to lose 10 kilograms, I want to lose 20 kilograms. There's going to be periods of that where it does get harder. So if their why is not strong enough, they're going to find themselves, oh, you know what, I'm just going to have a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I'm going out with my friends. Oh, there's a burger there. I'm just going to eat the burger. And you want to think of it as a long-term approach rather than short-term. So everything I do with someone, I always look and refer back to their why. So if their why is really strong, so some people will be like to me, I have a client in London right now, he said to me he came to see me specifically because he was having heart problems. The doctor said to him, if you don't lose weight, you may not last another year. So his why is really strong. He's like, I want to live. I want to be able to see my kids, to see my grandkids. I want to be able to last another 20 years. Then you get some people's whys, it more ties into a motivation. They're like, I just want to lose a couple of kilos. It gets to a certain point when they're like, nah, I just can't be bothered to do it. I'm just more chilled out about stuff.
Let us know what your why is. We're going to be right back after the Adhan, and we'll ask you, why are you doing it?
This is the Halftime Show with Omar Adori on Pulse 95.
Sure is that time. It's the Halftime Show with Omar Duri. I'm your host, covering everything sport, international and local. T. Shubs is in the building. Tarek has joined us from London, I would like to say, because he's one of us, and we love that. And the fact that we've got some London vibes, you know it's going to be a good show. Before we wrapped up the first segment, Tarek, we were talking about the whys, and a lot of people have thrown in some questions for that. Now, you wanted to go in a bit more about that. Tell me more about people's whys when they approach you normally.
So a little bit more about why. So when someone approaches me, I try and look at something more of you'll get people who want to lose a bit of weight before holiday, look great on the beach. They have these, let's say it's like, in terms of aesthetics, they have these small goals that they want to look a little bit better. So you want to think about your training and nutrition is not just for 6, 12, 18 weeks. It's something you do, hopefully, for the rest of your life. So if your why is strong enough, so when you get into it and you build better habits over a period of time, that will be something that you can go back to. And you potentially may change the why you're doing something. At first, it may be, I want to lose 30 kilos to improve my health. I have some clients that come to me and say, I want to be able to run around after my kids. That doesn't mean it doesn't change, but if you start and you think about, okay, I'm doing this for this reason, there's going to be days where work is stressful, there's going to be things going on, you may not find yourself being able to go to the gym or exercising as much as you want. Those days will come. Motivation may feel a bit low, but if you can keep referring back to, why am I actually doing this? Why have I started? Am I doing it to improve my health, or am I doing it just so I can look good on a beach for a picture on Instagram? There's going to be different reasonings behind why people do stuff.
So can you modify the why, and can you take a little bit off the why?
You could potentially take something off it, or you could potentially modify it as you go along. So I think most people will have, for their initial goal. So if someone's initial goal is, I want to feel better, move better, perform better in the gym, I want to perform better in life, at work, be more productive. Their why is going to be revolved around that probably in the first 6 months. I'll talk to someone about their kind of goals, their whys, the reasoning why they come and see me for like a 2-hour consultation when we first start. Then I can kind of get a little bit more into their mindset, where they are stress-wise, where they are nutritionally, where they are just in day-to-day life. And it will change. The reasoning why you may go to the gym at first will definitely change over a period of time. When I first went to the gym, I just felt uncomfortable. I used to get bullied. I didn't feel great in my own skin. And over when I got to a certain point, maybe 3-4 years later, then it started changing. And I was like, my why behind I go to the gym is, I know it makes me feel great. I want to feel strong. I want to be able to have performance-based goals. I want to deadlift 100 kilos. I want to deadlift 200 kilos. I want to be able to play football. I want to be able to do these things. So it will modify it as you go along. But I think most people go into the gym, nutrition, training, want to change their lifestyle, but it's very short-lived. They don't think about medium and long-term goals. It's all about now. I want to do this. I want this. I want that. And that will come into mindset, like affirmations, just being positive in the way you think about situations, the words you use will be more longer lasting than just short-term motivational bursts of, I want to look good, as I mentioned, on the beach or something like that.
From the nutritional aspect, obviously you hear a lot of things, and we spoke briefly about the myths in segment one. But when it comes down to nutrition, and you spend that time with your consultations for 2 hours, how do you have a set plan for each person in terms of like a formula for them, or a breakdown, or how do you do things normally?
So for nutrition itself, it's like anything. If you want to learn a language, there's things you have to do to actually be able to learn the language and be more fluent with it. So when it comes to nutrition, when it comes to actually setting up someone's diet plan, nutrition plan, there's a few things you have to take into consideration, like how much protein they're having, the calories. But I don't give two people the same thing. Everyone's going to be slightly different on where they are. There's going to be baselines you may need to hit. So for instance, someone who's 100 kilos may need to eat 200 grams of protein a day. However, if they come to me and they're eating maybe one meal of protein, I can't go from 0 to 100 straight away. There has to be a process of building them up towards that. Like there's basics you need to hit. Like I tell people to eat a certain amount of calories, look at their protein content. Carbohydrate content will be based around how active they are and so forth. So I'll kind of calculate stuff, but it's always, all these calculations are never 100%. You have to, like a chameleon, you have to kind of maneuver yourself and maneuver the approach based around the person's needs and how active they are and their wants and so forth. And 99% of the time, if somebody comes and does a low carb diet or these kind of diets, it's not going to last a long period of time, because if you say to someone, okay, you can never have a piece of bread again in your life, they will look at you and pretty much switch off within the first week. That goes back to the why and like being able to do it long term. You want to have an approach. It doesn't have to be like going extreme. So I'm not allowed to eat bread or pasta, or that's kind of another myth that people think there's so many good foods and bad foods. There's going to be foods which are nutritionally better, like sweet potato over something like a box of cereal. But it doesn't mean you can never have anything. You just have to be a bit smarter about it. That's what my goal is with my clients, is just to basically take out all the guesswork, take out all the noise that you find online, and just basically give them something that they can actually follow. It's like anything. If I said to you, Omar, today we're going to go and I want you to do the show in Japanese, you'd look at me and be like, yeah, I don't think that's really possible. But
that'd be interesting.
So there's different ways I look about it. But again, I try and make it as simple for the person. I don't want to try and complicate things. But we're kind of like where you talk about nutritional stuff. So looking at carbs and proteins, and I think the thing that keeps flying around with people is like the second somebody wants to lose weight is I have to eat a salad, I have to eat no carbs, I have to suffer. Suffering is a big thing when it comes to dieting, when it comes to changing their lifestyle. It may be a bit hard because you're changing habits, but it doesn't have to be your suffering where you actually hate doing it. It has to be something you enjoy long term as well. Really good.
I told you guys, the show was going to fly by. We're in 2 segments in. And guys, if you do miss our shows, you can catch us on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify and Rami for audio, or even on YouTube Live. Thanks to Super Mario and Gabby, who put our shows up with these fantastic guests on. Coming up next, we're talking mindset. We're talking mental stress barriers. So make sure you stay tuned on the only place to be at 3, the Halftime Show on Pulse 95.
This is the Halftime Show with Omar and Duri on Pulse 95.
Ne pense plus à lui. Tu te fais du mal, s'il te plaît, n'y pense plus. Il a souillé ton âme, toi tu t'es battu. Ton cœur est plus précieux que de l'or. Ne pense plus à lui. Pour un homme, tu ne veux plus voir le jour. Des milliers d'entre eux rêvent de te faire l'amour. Ton corps est aussi beau que l'or, que l'aurore. Encore tu pleures pour une histoire de love. Ils vont encore dire que t'as et qu'ils ne parlent que d'amour, ou d'amour. Mais c'est toi qui demandes à être consolé. Moi je suis ton ami, et les amis font ça toujours. Donc on va parler. Tu t'es plié en 4 pour un salaud. Et pour vous tu t'es donné sans compter. Lui il a planté le couteau. Et il a regardé ton sang couler. Et depuis tu ne sors plus. J'ai demandé, on m'a dit tu ne manges plus. Yeah. Mon avis tu voulais. Oh, ne pense plus à lui. Tu fais du mal, s'il te plaît, n'y pense plus. Il a souillé ton âme, toi tu t'es battu. Ton cœur est plus précieux que de l'or. Ne pense plus à lui. Pour un homme, tu ne veux plus voir le jour. Des milliers d'entre eux rêvent de te faire l'amour. Ton corps est aussi beau que l'or. Que l'or. Pour un petit fils de je n'aurais jamais pensé qu'une femme comme toi puisse tomber aussi bas. Tu l'aimais, lui il t'a fait payer. Aujourd'hui tu le maudis. Moi c'est toi que je maudis et tu vas comprendre pourquoi. Personne ne t'a forcé à rester. Non, personne ne t'a forcé à rester. Tu étais tellement fier de vous, fier de vous. Aucun homme ne pourra te faire tomber. Non, aucun homme ne pourra te faire tomber. T'es la fille de ta mère, le bijou de ton père. Lui, il est qui? Lui, il est qui pour te faire pleurer? Ne pense plus à lui. Lui, il est qui? Il est qui pour te faire pleurer?
Wash your hands after touching anything. You are responsible.
A mixed substance that is meant to cure everything. It has an exotic background coming from medieval Latin. Before that, elixir in Arabic was elixir, basically meaning medicinal powder. And after a few translations, elixir, English, elixir, Arabic.
A battle of words.
Drive smart, drive safe, and drive alive.
Enjoying the ambient light in your car at night? If there's lots of bright illumination in the car's cabin, your pupils close down like they do on a sunny day. This makes it much more difficult to see the dark road ahead. Control the car illumination and lower it as much as possible so you'll not be distracted by it. This includes TV screens you have in the back seats.
Road safety tips, making our roads less dangerous.
This is Sharjah Quest. Sharjah Quest. In search of the city's most interesting attractions.
Sharjah Islamic Museum is holding more than 5,000 exquisite artifacts from all over the Islamic world. You can find early Islamic coins, the sitara or curtain for the door of the Kaaba in Makkah, the lion or lynx censer, astrolabes, the copper and silver inlaid New Mamluk table and more. The Sharjah Museum of Islamic Civilization is open every day till 8 p.m. and 4 p.m. till 8 p.m. on Friday. Visit islamicmuseum.ae for more.
Sharjah Quest, discovering fascinating sights of the city.
Our collective health depends on each and every one of us. We are not only responsible for our own health, but also those we come into close contact with.
Help prevent the spread of COVID-19. Always cover your mouth when you sneeze or cough, and wash your hands for at least 20 seconds. Evidence shows that countries who followed these precautionary measures have achieved significant progress in reducing the number of infections and deaths.
Our collective health depends on each and every one of us. We are not responsible for our own health, but also those who come into close contact with. As His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan has said, Any individual who gets infected affects others, and these numbers harm every one of us. Protect yourself, protect your families and your children.
Hi, this is Omnia.
And I'm Hani, presenting Future Talk every weekday from 2 p.m. right here on Pulse 95.
Pulse 95. Lost connection in space and couldn't tune into Future Talk?
Don't worry, because we got you covered. If you missed the show, you can always listen to us on SoundCloud and
Apple Podcasts.
Oh, he loves the fire then. What a goal!
This is the halftime show with Omar Adori on Pulse 95.
Salam and welcome back to the halftime show with Omar Adori. Thank you very much for tuning in from all around the world. We've got people tuned in from India, London, Egypt, Saudi, New York, Florin, New Jersey, Adil, Florida, Debo. I'm trying to remember all these names now. Maha, Egypt, Ala, Saudi, Ajay, London. I got to give Ajay a shout as well. He's always tuned in. Thank you very much for connecting with me. We got T-Shubs in the building. We were talking about the whys today. Really, really interesting. We could spend, I think, a whole show on the whys. But I think what we're going to do now is go into the mental aspect, which you know here on the halftime show and even in Reset, we like to discuss a lot in depth. With this, Tarek, we normally have people talking about stress. Now, one thing is really important to point out to people that there's good stress and bad stress. How do you think mental stress has taken its toll following 2020 with COVID and all that?
I think COVID is a different thing completely. Like, it's no one thought it was going to happen. Beginning of 2020, 2019, myself, I was like, yeah, 2020 is going to be the best year yet. This is going to happen. I've got this and this and this that I want to achieve. It got to March and April, and I was like, okay, I'm stuck at home now. It's going to be a lot harder to do these things. And I think people's mental stress, or most people didn't train themselves to be mentally strong. So you go to the gym, you lift some weights, you physically get stronger, you physically get a bit bigger, you may get a bit fitter, but training your mind is a completely different thing completely. I know myself, I didn't train my mind for a long period of time. I put it to the side. I was like, it's not important as long as I've got a six-pack. It's not important as long as I've got a nice pair of arms. It got to a certain point when things got harder, stress from work, stress from different parts of life got into the equation, and I was like, okay, I don't really know how to deal with this. You give me a dumbbell, I'm great. I can pretty good technique, if I say so myself. When it comes to dealing with stress, a lot of people either have things which they react to. So some people may be emotional eaters. Some people may not deal with stress at all and just build it all in, build it up, and they just literally combust, and literally everything goes pretty badly. Anxiety occurs. There's different ways you can deal with these things depending on what the situation is. But I think a lot of people found lockdown a lot harder than they thought it would be.
So how do you train the mind?
So things I've done personally, I'm really big into yoga, meditation. Meditation I found was a massive thing for me. So I think in the last maybe 5 years, I try and meditate either 10 minutes a night or 10 minutes in the morning. When I first started, I'm not going to lie, I would try and I use an app. So I use an app. They say 10 minutes, close your eyes, start nasal breathing through your diaphragm, trying to relax your body. So you have your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. One is to relax and one is to kind of get your body into a more pushed up state. So when you train, you want to be in a certain state, and when you're relaxing, you're in your day-to-day life, you want to be in a certain state. With the meditation, it just allows your body to relax and to allow you to go to sleep a bit better. And again, I don't want to go into the cycles of sleep, but if you are in a more relaxed state before you sleep, it's more likely for you to get deep sleep. So your REM sleep will be a lot better. So when I first started, I would do it, and it would be within 2 minutes, I would literally start snoring. I'd be completely knocked out, which defeats the purpose. So I found after maybe 1, 2, 3 weeks of doing that, I felt a lot more centered. And then I switch it to the morning, because whenever I do 5 minutes to myself, I can gather my thoughts, I can have positive affirmations of the day, and I'm like, rather than thinking negatively when I wake up, oh, I feel tired, I feel this, like, I am going to accomplish this today, I am going to accomplish this, I'm going to make sure, even if it's big or small, I am going to do 10 minutes of something for myself. I'm going to do 10 minutes of reading. I'm going to do 10 minutes positive that's going to help me achieve my goals. It could be gym related, life related. I think the more I did that during lockdown, the better I felt. The better I felt. Like I was like, okay, at first I was like, it's really, really hard. I started doing things like walking. I started doing things like the yoga, the even stuff like breathing. So like nasal breathing. Like most people, I go to them with the gym. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna teach you how to breathe a bit more efficiently. They're like, I'm pretty sure I know how to breathe. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. I was like, yeah, you're breathing, but there's ways we can make breathing a lot better, so you can actually allow yourself to relax. The mental health aspect of it is, I think most people just neglect that completely. They're just like, it's not important.
Why do they overlook it? Is that through how we've been brought up? Is that through the stigma that, the media is currently trying to hide? Not recently, but in the past. Why does that happen?
I think there's a huge stigma, especially around men, and it's more like a macho bravado. From myself, I would say it was more of a macho bravado. I was like, I don't need to talk about my feelings. It's fine. It's not important. There's lots of charities now. Like there's a charity I'm working with in the UK called Better. They look at mental health and suicide prevention. They're trying to normalize the conversation about mental health and say it's okay if you're stressed, if you're anxious, go and talk to a friend, go and talk to a family member. I feel a lot of people don't want to burden someone with their problems, or if they've had a rough day, they just want to hold it in, bottle it up, not talk about it. It's the easier way to do things. Like in life, most people want to take the easy approach. If something is hard, they want to, depending on the person, run away from it. They want to say, you know what, it'll get better, and eventually it does not get better. And then either it ends up being really bad, you go and you have a bit of a nervous breakdown, or you're stressed, you don't enjoy life, and things will feel a lot harder. And then going back into the training nutrition, once you're into that state, you're going to find it a lot harder to actually revert back to your why, and you're going to find it a lot harder to actually stick to a healthy eating plan, training. It can have an effect with performance. You may pick up more injuries once you're in a stress state. A little bit of stress is good, so you have a little bit of stress when you train. You want that. If you're chronically stressed, chronically feeling upset all the time, it affects hormones potentially, depending on how bad it is. It will affect your sleep, it will affect how your energy is throughout the day. And again, that's something you want to try and stay as far clear of as possible.
Absolutely. You mentioned something centered there, and a lot of times people feel off balance or unstable when it comes down to that. And that comes down to the mental state as well. Have you seen, in your experience, obviously, of handling and managing, people's lives, so to speak, that the nutritional part can actually affect the brain, which can affect the body? Is there a cycle in that?
Yeah, it's huge. If you're, let's take an example. So somebody's chronically under-eating. You have certain hormones called leptin, ghrelin, which can affect hunger and satiety. If you are chronically under-eating and you're constantly hungry, you're going to be very food-focused. You're not going to be able to potentially get to sleep because certain hormones go out of sync. You're going to find the next day, you're going to feel tired, lethargic, not really with it. You're going to find, there's lots of studies done on sleep deprivation. So sleep deprivation for a number of period of days can be the same as having, feeling like you're groggy. So it's like, there's a study I was reading the other day, it says having 2 or 3 days of sleep deprivation is like you having 2 or 3 days of alcohol intoxication. So you're just not with it. Like your just body feels like it's not there. You're not centered. You're not who you are. You're not yourself. So I deal with a lot of busy professionals and a lot of executive CEOs who basically have to be on their ball game 100% of the time. So my job is basically saying, okay, let's do this. And then looking not just at life things that they do in the gym, but apart from the day-to-day life. Okay, if you're feeling stressed, how about we go and do this? So how about we try this, yoga, or even it could be something as simple as before you go to bed, try and stop all electronics. Give yourself time to yourself if you are stressed. I know a lot of busy professionals.
How much time?
It varies. So I tell most people, if you are on your phones all the time, emails. Again, I'm guilty of this. I'm constantly messaging clients, replying to this, replying to that email. I give myself 30, 40 minutes before bed, put my phone to the side. I try and black out my room. I completely stay away from things, and I just give myself time to myself just to gather my thoughts, gather my feelings. If I am stressed, I may the next day call up a friend, go for a coffee and say, can I talk to you about something? Can we have a discussion? But I think it's the stigma around it. For most people, not just men, just women as well. They don't want to burden people with their problems. They just say it's easier just to throw it under the carpet.
Very, very good. I promised you it was going to be a good show. Couple of shout outs for everyone here, and Dina's been throwing some fire as well. Dina Dahman, she's here. Yeah. She's like, she's proud of you, cousin. Shout out to Masood, Nehmati, Sharath, Terry, Divya, Almas, Zara, Pranav, Isam, Sarah, Fatima, MJ, Mariam, sorry, I have to mention Mariam, Charlus, and everyone else who's tuned in. Guys, we're going to be right back after the break, but before we do that, make sure you get your questions in on my Instagram at Omar Al-Duri, or even send them through. Text us on 4215 Ittasalat or do, and we'll be right back after this. Enjoy.
This is the Halftime Show with Omar Al-Duri on Pulse 95.
It sure is that time. It's the Halftime Show with Omar Al-Duri. If you're just joining us here and you're mad at yourself and kicking yourself for missing the shows get converted to podcasts, so you can catch us on Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, and Anghami. Just type in the Halftime Show, Pulse 95 Radio, and we are there. If you prefer a visual, I just banged my ring on the table. If you prefer a visual, you can head over to our YouTube channel, Pulse 95 Radio. We got some great guests like Tarek Shuhaibar, and obviously a couple more superstars, internationally and locally, who will jump on the show and talk about many different things, from gut health to mental health. We try and cover more than just sports on the show, and I'm so delighted that everyone who's tuned in on Instagram Live has added their flavor to the plate, because like I said, this is the segment that comes in where your questions get answered by our guest, or just me sometimes. In this case, we got T-Shubs in the building. T-Shubs, you know, for this, man, you're going to get a round of applause. I didn't give you a round of applause earlier. All right, let's go for these questions now, Tarek. So we had a couple of questions. I'm going to scroll down through the Instagram, which I had earlier. And Terry asked a question. Where is it here? God, you guys have kept these comments coming in. All right, hold on. Where is it? Okay. Do you find that people are more successful when their why is personal and internal rather than an external aesthetic reason? Whew.
That's a good one. Is that from Terry?
That's from Terry. That's
Terry,
right.
Very good question, Terry. I always find it internally. So if you have an internal why, which is strong, it's a lot better long term than just something external. So again, like I train celebrities, I train CEOs, I just train normal average Jane and Joes.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to have a different why. So some are just more external, like I need to look a certain way for a movie part, I need to look a certain way for a TV show, or my band is going on stage in 2 months, we need to look a certain way. I find it's a lot harder sometimes with those people. Those people's whys are very strong because they're getting on a TV screen. They're getting in this. They're going to be on like the big screen in the cinema.
Yeah.
So it's sometimes easier to work with people like that. But I think always your why has to be kind of personal to you. I can't tell someone what their why is. I can't say you need to lose weight. You need to do this. The people come to me and I always ask, what is it that you want to do? Why are you starting this? Is there a reason for you doing this? It has to be personal to you, and for it to be personal to you that's what you can keep referring back to when you are 2 months in, 3 months, 4, 5, 6 months in, because there's going to be, like I said, days where things are stressful, work, blah blah blah. If you go back to that initial why, it's a lot easier to go back to it and then keep pushing yourself forward and making more strides and building better habits and so forth.
Excellent. Wow, Dina, by the way, is an excellent agent as well. Tarek, please can you address fitness and nutrition in relation to eating disorders in a nutshell?
I think we're going to need another show for this one. In a nutshell. So, eating disorders is a completely different kettle of fish. So, it's when it comes to training nutrition for that, there's going to need something very, very personal. So, it's going to be looking at the individual symptoms and looking at the individual reasoning behind it. So again, if somebody has maybe anorexia, potentially body dysmorphia, you have to, I think it requires not just one person like myself working with someone. I will need to refer out to maybe potentially a psychologist or someone who's a dietitian who literally just deals with the eating disorders, and then work together with them in terms of their nutrition, their training, and then I would make all their nutrition and training cater towards that, because I know a lot of people, I've worked with people like that in the past, who have been anorexic. It requires a lot more thought Like, you can't just give them something. I have to basically be with them every single step of the way, ask them questions, and make it kind of tailored towards them. I know that sounds kind of, it's vague.
No.
However, there's a lot that goes into it.
Well, question to you based on that question. This is my question. So you obviously you spend a lot of time trying to understand the whys of people and what their objective is. When you say psychology or psychiatrist, a client normally, their fight or flight, we mentioned this a little bit earlier, they kind of close up a little bit. Do you feel like sometimes if you know they're not going to go to those people, that you feel you have to fulfill a certain role of a high responsibility?
I've been in that situation before. Like, sometimes I can give people as much of my knowledge and as much as my time. However, I am not afraid to say to someone, I think we may need to stop for a couple of months, and you may need to go and see someone who you can actually talk to, who's a professional in this. Or I can work with that person alongside training them to kind of get into their problems a little bit more, because sometimes females may not be comfortable talking to me about certain things. Sometimes men might not. Sometimes they need something a bit more specific. So I have no problem telling someone, at this moment in time, I think you should, let's say, put your funds towards something more specific. Once you're over that barrier, and once you started like opening up and kind of understanding why you're doing these certain habits, why potentially some people may get stressed and go and eat a tub of ice cream every single night. If somebody go and drinks a bottle of wine every single night, there's always going to be a reasoning behind that. It's not just me saying to you, stop doing that. It's very easy for me to tell someone, don't eat that. That's where psychology and human behavior comes into it. So I also I like looking at human behavior. So their body language, the way they respond to stuff, their questioning, the way they answer their questions in the questionnaire. I know it sounds very like out there, but I look at all these little things and it paints a picture to me. So if somebody comes into me, shoulders slunched over, they're looking down at the floor, they're like sweating, they don't look comfortable in the gym, my approach is not going to be like, I'm going to go and absolutely demolish them where they can't walk for 4 days. I may have to baby them and kind of be a bit easier for the first 3 weeks. Once they start losing weight, once they start getting a bit more comfortable, then I can start saying, okay, now we're going to make it a little bit harder. Now we're going to make it a little bit harder. Now we're going to make it a little bit harder in terms of what they do. In terms of nutrition, I might give them a bit more flexibility as we kind of progress. At first, it may be like, okay, these are your options. You're going to have X, Y, Z. As they build the knowledge and they build the foundations, then we can start playing around with stuff, especially like eating disorders. I would probably say I had something along those lines of body dysmorphia, where I always thought I didn't look good. I was like, I wouldn't eat certain foods because I thought it was going to make me look a certain way. I wouldn't go out with friends and have dinner because I was like, oh, I can't eat carbohydrates because, it's going to take me further away from my goals. But it all stems down to having the knowledge in place. If somebody works with me, I'm like, okay, this is what you need to do, but I want you to learn along the way. I want you to ask me questions. I want you to be able to. Don't be afraid to ask me questions. The more the questions, the better. So I'm like, I don't want to burden you. I'm like, if you ask me 100 questions, I will answer you 100 questions. Because I want you to get to a stage in 6 months' time where people can actually say to me, I don't want to work with you anymore, or I don't need to work with you anymore because I'm self-sufficient. Great. That's what I want. I want people to be self-sufficient and to go out into the world like my babies. I want them to go out into the world and be able to do things for themselves and kind of understand, if I do eat an apple, I'm not going to balloon. If I have a piece of bread, I'm not going to balloon, and it's going to take me away from my goals. I think people are very scared about that from all the myths and fallacies they read on the social media and the media from so-called experts. But I think people try and overcomplicate stuff when it doesn't have to be that way. It's very simple, but habits and human psychology is... Losing weight is easy. It's an equation. It's a maths equation. It's what you do over a 7-day period. What you do day to day is not as important. However, it comes into play somewhat, but what you do over a 7-day period is more important. It's the psychology of being able to say to yourself, I'm going to follow this for 7 days. That's the hardest bit. It's not about what you do, because whatever you do, in terms of if you're in a calorie deficit, if you're eating less, moving a bit more, you lose weight, the approach you take will either help you short-term or long-term. It may either make your situation worse, to your relationship with food worse, hence why I was talking about the path of least resistance. People want to do stuff which is easier just to get them to where they want to get to. That's where short-term, if they have problems already, like food eating disorders, bad relationship with food, it makes it worse. So I want to my approach with most people is like, I want you to be able to get to your goal, but I want to do things for you to get to your goal that'll make it easier, more enjoyable. So you're not feeling like you get to the weekend or you get to a certain point and you're like, I'm just bored. I don't want to eat chicken, rice and broccoli for the rest of my life. It doesn't have to be that way, but there are steps that have to go into place for you to get there. But I think most people, unfortunately, in this day and age, don't want to put in work for something. They're like, they want things to just fall in their lap. I'm like, you have to put in work.
Yeah.
No matter what it is, life, a job, if you want to get a promotion, you have to put in work towards it. If you want to get a six-pack, if you want to get a bigger bum, if you want to get faster on the field as a sportsman. It didn't happen to Cristiano Ronaldo. He didn't wake up one day and was like, I am the best player in the world. That's a contentious subject, Messi or Ronaldo, but we'll not go into that. However, they trained more than anyone.
Right.
They were relentless. Man United, when they were the best team in the world, you can't disagree with that. Alex Ferguson. All their players went above and beyond to get where they wanted to get to, especially with training and nutrition. You have to put in the work behind the scenes to get there. Absolutely. And it's not going to be the most exciting thing, and it's not going to be intermittent fasting or Cambridge diets or keto, which could be another show by itself. You have to do these things to get there.
Absolutely. Listen, T-Shubs, where can we follow you, man?
So I'm on Instagram, the Physique Institute. That's where I post all my stuff. You can ask me any questions you want. I'm doing a couple of lives. I tend to like to get into the human psychology behind stuff, the training, where I can talk a little bit more about ways to train, different ways to train based around your goals, the things you probably should do, the things you probably shouldn't do. I can go on and on about training nutrition. However, if you do have any specific questions, you can just drop me a line on the_physique_institute on Instagram.
Absolutely, guys. And there you have it. We have reached full time on the halftime show. T, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
For coming down on the show, man. It's been great having you. We didn't even get into the football side, which I'm sure we'll have on the way back to your place. We'll be talking about that in the car. But you remember, you can catch every Monday, Wednesday and Saturday, 3 to 4 on Pulse 95 in the heart of Sharjah. Guys, I promised you it was going to be a great show. This week is going to be fantastic. Shout out to everyone who's here in the studio, Sama and Co. And thank you very much for everyone who tuned in on the Instagram live at Omar Duri or on Pulse 95 Radio YouTube. We are reaching full time. T, thank you very much.
Thank you, Omar.
All the best, guys. And we are, remember, you catch Saturday Vibe as well. Saturday 6 to 7 with Big Hass. I will see you on Monday. Peace.
If you liked this episode of The Halftime Show, drop a like and subscribe.
95.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram for all our daily updates and top stories.